Yeah, it's working. Oh, that was fucking awkward, isn't it? For those on the replay, you're just looking at me, looking off to the left or to your right. I don't care. It's some spatial trajectory, isn't it? Yeah. I'll try to edit all this out because you can do that for the beginning of a video when nobody's here. Oh, there's one person. Look at that. Here we go. You're here. I'm just waiting around, Bayshore, because there was nobody here before you. Much like how, nobody was around before God came around and made the fucking universe and then told everyone to stop masturbating. Yeah, I'm on a roll, aren't I? This is the 5th video in 2 days. I don't know if it's 2 days. It was 2 days for me anyway. 4 yesterday, 1 today. Because I've got time on my hands. I could share it with you. The 3 things I want to talk about. So let's assume we're going to have replay viewers. Excuse me. I'm always just because I text you. I want to talk about 3 things, but I'm sure we'll get sidetracked. I want to talk about Joe Rogan getting the COOF. I applied for my PR. In fact, I'll talk about that first. And then I'm going to talk about CBD oils because I've bought like $400 worth of CBD oils. And just catch up with anybody who's got questions, who just wants to check in with me. Because I feel like I'm doing this mostly for the Periscopers who have been abandoned by Periscope. Although speaking of which, I just saw a Bloomberg article. Where's my article? Where's my Twitter? A Bloomberg article where they are saying Twitter is going to launch a bunch of new privacy features, including the ability to archive old tweets, hide the list of tweets you've liked, and for some reason, cull your following list, your own following list. So if you've got too many followers and you think 5 is more than enough, then you can bring that number down to 5. You can do that and it'll offer you that feature instead of just not worrying about who follows you. And if you get added, and if there's people you don't want to, if you don't want them following you, the article says you have to block them, which is like, yes, but you could also just unblock them. Then it's not really a big deal. I don't understand why these features are even being made. I don't know who is upset about having a follower list. Hello, Kevin. To warrant these features being made, when if there's one feature that we all want from Twitter, it's an edit button. And no matter whoever recommends we should have an edit button, there's always someone in the chat saying, no one needs an edit button. You can just delete the tweet and then just type it out again. It's like, can I use Twitter the way I want to use Twitter, please? I don't understand these people who want to keep us all down and say, no, you don't need, you specifically asking for that feature. You don't need that feature when you can just do this. Okay, you might do that. That's what you do. Or you might not care about your bad spelling and punctuation, grammar and punctuation. Can't even speak properly. But some of us just want it to be made effortless so that we can just delete a tweet. Sorry, edit a tweet and then move on. Nothing wrong with that. Other platforms do it. Firefly, I have no idea either. I don't get why Twitter are making all these different features except for the one that we actually want. Well, I actually want. Sorry, I'm doing the reverse of what I just accused the other person of. But I want it. Just quickly edit it. It's fine. Now, some of those inbreds who are saying you don't need it don't understand that if you've got like 1 million followers and you put out a tweet and you make a mistake and then you delete it, it's going to upset people. But if you can edit it and it shows that it's been edited and it goes viral within a couple of minutes, then that's fine. No one's upset. There isn't a disturbance in the force. But these people don't think of anybody else except for themselves. And yesterday there was another article I shared. Let me find it. Where Twitter has now opened the super follow subscription function. Now I have to read this in Safari, so I can't actually see who's commenting at the moment. So let me just read a little bit of this. This is from Engadget. Twitter opens super follow subscriptions for some creators. Now, some is the important word because it looks like they've chosen these creators. And if you've ever been on Periscope, you know that when they favor creators, you know that they pick the right ones. Okay? You know this. No sarcasm. As the article says, Twitter is finally flipping the switch. Finally. As though we've all been waiting for it. Flipping the switch on super follows. It's quoted in the article. Its new subscription feature that allows creators to charge their followers for exclusive content. Remember that word, exclusive. Starting today, the company is making the feature available to a small group of creators with plans to expand the lineup in the coming weeks. Twitter has been taking applications for super follows since June. If you've ever been a Periscope creator, you know how that process goes. For now, creators, no air quotes, can set up monthly rates. So basically, you get to set up the subscription for your followers. So if you want your followers to pay $2.99 US, $4.99, or $9.99, that's your choice to set the barrier of entry to your followers. So I can't do it because I don't have 10,000 subs or 10,000 followers. That's what you need as a minimum, 10,000. But if I wanted to, and I wanted to be an ass, I could set that at $10 US. And you can't get in and see my exclusive tweets unless you give me $10 a month. Okay? This is Netflix money that we're talking about here. The $10 price range. So those tweets have to be fucking gold. You have to be a goose. Is it the golden goose? Yeah, the golden goose shitting golden eggs. That's who you have to be, as far as I'm concerned, because your tweets are more expensive than Netflix. All the 24-hour access to Netflix. This individual has already lost because they're not going to give me their 24-hour self to me. Anyway, okay, let me continue reading. Twitter says it will eventually incorporate other features such as spaces and newsletters. But until then, the feature essentially amounts to paying for tweets. You're paying for tweets, which might explain why the company is trying out with just a few people to start. Now you think to yourself, okay, shit, it isn't really a good value proposition because you're paying for tweets and they're trying it out with just a few people. Who are these few people? And the article includes 4 of them. The initial lineup includes, hold on to your seats because these are big names on Twitter. I don't know about you, but I've certainly heard of them. At Makeup for Women of Color. At My Isha Chow. At King Joshua 54. And the last one is at Tarot by Bronx. What do these people do? Makeup for WOC. Actually, it's WOC, WOC, not women of color, who will offer client-level treatment for subscribers with skincare questions. Don't know who this person is, but if I'm paying for their tweets, I need to find out who they are now. Tiara Willis, she has 276,000 followers. Right, that's her. My Isha Chow, she will provide, or they will provide, sorry, I assume their gender, they will provide exclusive behind-the-scenes stories. I don't know what of, so let's find out. Writer Cardi B retweeted me on January the 20th. Most important thing to happen to a woman of South Asian descent that day. FL/NYC, she, her pronouns. 17,000 followers. Holy shit, I'm missing out, it seems. What about King Joshua 54? I mean, if he's a king, he will offer in-depth sport analysis. No actual sport commentator, just this guy who is on Wave TV or some shit. I don't know. I've already lost interest because I don't care about sports. And the last one is Tarot by Bronx, and they have 170,000 followers. Non-binary, they, them, pure generator, tarot, astrology, and spiritual guidance. Okay, I'm going to check the comments. Anybody here? Just Paula. Wow, you were here again. Okay, well, that was worth alt-tabbing into my Chrome browser for that. Thanks, Paula. Excuse me. We're just listening. No need to type comments. Right. Of course, as the article says, of course, if you're especially interested in one of these topics or just a dedicated fan, there is an upside to buying a subscription. You'll be able to interact with creators in a smaller and slightly more private forum. Holy shit! We've got 5 followers here. So we've got 5 people watching, and none of you are paying. Well, maybe Bayshore is, sorry, technically. 4 of you now. If this is not what they're charging on, I'm doing it for free, basically. You don't know how privileged you are. You don't even need a Twitter account. Paula, you don't even like fucking using Twitter, and you're here gaining the benefits. You've circumvented the paywall by speaking to me for exclusive information. I don't know what that, I know it's subjective, the exclusivity, but there we are. That's what's going on. Let's have a look here. So you'll be able to interact with small. I said that. That could be useful if, for example, you're hoping to get some personalized skincare advice. On the other hand, asking fans to pay for the kind of content they're used to getting for free might be a tough sell. You don't say, Twitter. You don't say. Super follows is one piece of Twitter's strategy. Twitter strategy, which consists of throwing cats into a chicken coop to see what happens, to reshape its platform as a destination for creators. Outside of subscriptions, the company is also experimenting with letting creators sell tickets to audio chats in spaces. Holy shit. Digital tickets for digital spaces. Twitter, I'm giving it away for free. Why am I even on YouTube? Twitter is also working on a newsletter platform. It acquired Review earlier this year and has opened up tipping features in its app. I did a tweet storm, and it automatically opened up the Review service, and it said, oh, maybe you'd like to create a newsletter. That's how easy it is to get inside that newsletter. They just see you firing off like 2 or 3 tweets in a tweet storm. Boom. Why don't you write a newsletter, dude? Can you imagine that low level of entry for anybody on Twitter who wants to do a tweet storm? Somebody could be tweet storming about fucking a paella that they had in an American restaurant that is fake Japanese, and they misunderstood the signage when it said mojitos on the front. And they walked in expecting mojitos, but it's a Japanese restaurant style, managed by Americans, and they got served paella somehow. I don't know, but there's layers of misunderstanding there that doesn't make sense. But it's good enough reason to write a tweet storm on Twitter for that, and then like, oh, maybe you want to write a newsletter. Who the fuck? Who cares? Who cares about that? But that's what could happen, because the app tweets back at you and says, hey, newsletter. Okay. The other thing that Twitter is busy, air quotes, busy. Well, no, sorry, there's one more thing. So inside that tweet that I shared from Engadget, someone shared this, basically this thread from one of the people who is now using the super follows function. This is the Tiara Willis person at Makeup for Women of Color, or WOC. And so she's done it. She's using the feature, and she's put out the tweet that says, skincare Q&A exclusive for my super followers. Ask me anything. Oh, wow. Great. So you've got 170,000 followers. Some of you have paid. Let's get some skincare advice. And then it says, who can see this? And it says, only people that super follow you can see this tweet. So again, it's exclusive. This is a secret Twitter thread that's happening. You're missing out on. But someone screenshotted it. And this lady called Bree, she asks, can I break out from using too many chemical exfoliants? And Tiara Willis says, remember, you've paid for this. Tiara Willis says, yes, this can happen. That's the tweet. Don't all type at once. Don't all type your shock or the fact that you're jealous. Hashtag jealous. You need to get in on her secret tweet threads. That's what she wrote, those 4 words. Yes, this can happen. I don't get it. Bayshore could be right. People are so full of themselves that they feel like they are an expert or an authority figure on skincare, when I could probably just go to a website. I could probably just go to Jezebel or something. I don't know. I don't do skincare, do I? But Jonathan, you're about to do a 3-part series on CBD oils. Why should we care? That is an excellent point. Thank you for typing that. Well, one, I'm doing it for nothing. Okay, you don't have to pay to watch that, so that nullifies your argument, whoever said that. Second, spent many months. So we're transitioning now. We're transitioning to the next topic. That was the segue. That was a beautiful segue that you paid nothing for. Okay, that was smooth. That was smoother than fucking butter, goat's milk butter. But I digress. I am going to do a 3-part series on collating a way you don't even know. See, you're stuttering. I want to do a 3-part series on how to improve sleep. And on part 1, I'm going to explain all the things that I do to help me sleep that don't involve buying anything. Because there are lots of little things that I do that help me sleep. Because I do have sleeping problems. And then part 2 is about CBD oils, which I have used in the past, and I've had no success. But supposedly, and it's cost me $400 to find this out, potentially find this out, that not all CBD oils work the same. And so you will get different reactions to different oils. And there was a CBD fair a couple of weeks ago in Hong Kong, which was obviously trying to sell CBD, but also raise awareness of CBD, because a lot of people here think it's just a drug. FYI, I am Stephen. Just changed my name in the YouTube. Good to see you again. Okay, I get that The Firefly is a great TV series, and it was a half-decent movie. But I don't know which Stephen. When I think of Stephen, I think of Stephen Crowder. When I think of Stephen, I think of Stephen Strange. If I think of Stephen, I think of Stephen from my secondary high school, whose second name escapes me. But I remember his dad, because his dad or his uncle had a missing arm, and they called him Paddy. But that's it. Stephen, Periscope USA. I don't know. I mean, Stephen Crowder. You have the CV references of Stephen Crowder at the moment with just those 3 words: Stephen, Periscope USA. That's it. It's like a game of Guess Who, except everyone's called Stephen and they're from the USA. Give me more. Give me more. Even Stevens. Oh, I didn't get that reference. It's probably because slang doesn't really work over here. Anyway, CBD oil. So I've got the boxes, although they're a bit malformed for some reason. Oh yeah, I was saying that they're trying to raise awareness in Hong Kong, which they are, because they believe that CBD is a drug. And obviously, it's not a drug if you're removing the THC, which the THC is not allowed here. Old guy, meet Nikki in Hong Kong once. It rings a bell. It rings a bell. In fact, I was just on a video call with Nikki like an hour ago. That's how tight we are. After like 6 months of not being in contact with her. Anyway, these oils are grown in the USA. It's kind of weird. Hello, Superior Kitten. These oils are, it says here, this one's grown in the USA. This one, former CBD, is grown in the USA. What's interesting is that they say, because I got to speak to the owners, and there's actually a CBD restaurant in Hong Kong, which I want to go to. And if I have their permission, I'd like to do a YouTube video inside. All the food is laced with CBD. The companies say, oh, we're Hong Kong brands. And it's like, okay, but we make the CBD oil in America. Why not make it in Hong Kong? Well, they're not a distributor, but they're set up in America, and then they bring it here. And so these products that I'm going to mention are not in the US. So how does that make it relevant to you? Well, it's the idea that I'm trying these 4 different oils, explaining how it's going to work, and seeing if there's a reaction to it. So part 2 is just basically acknowledging that I will do like a journal and see what effects these have on me. So for example, this one is lemon flavored, 2,000 milligrams. This one's the strongest one, I think. This one is from Japan, and it's 1,500 milligrams. And this one is 3,000 milligrams. So they're really high. And this one is supposed to be tailor-made for helping. Oh, there we go. Why didn't you just say that? I remember you now because you used to be on the Patreon. Then you said that you didn't have time for Periscope. You don't like using it anymore. And we've been in contact with one another. We've done a video chat. See, I remember all that because I associate the TWFX. No one else knows. I got you now, Steve, because we were doing the ballet dancers. See, it's all coming back to me. I was helping you find ballet dance schools in Hong Kong, I think. Was it ballet dancers? Anyway, these four, there's a fourth one, but it doesn't come with a box, and this is currently sitting in the fridge. I just want to go through them. What I'll do is probably use them for like 10 days, because if I use them all, it could take like months. But I want to cycle through them, maybe 10, 15 days, 2 weeks for each one, and then write down the effects and see if there are any effects. Maybe there isn't, because part of me believes, because I'm actually using these testers from this company. So it says relax on here, and it says relax there, and I'm using 4 or 5 drops of that. And at the moment, that relax, I haven't noticed anything that's different, but maybe something is happening. I'm not sure. That's the difficult thing with CBD oils. Some of them, or all of them, reduce inflammation. So that I've got that going for me. But when they promote better sleep, now that is in my wheelhouse, where I've been recording the results of my sleep for years, literally years, because I have this app called Sleep Cycle. Again, this will be in part 1, sort of like laying the foundation towards the part 2, which is CBD oil, and then part 3 is going to be progesterone. But this will explain, for example, my sleeping habit. It took me a while to get to sleep. Then I'm dead. You can see the 2 little bumps. Then I wake up for a pee. Okay? But then if you go back the next day, you can see where I wake up for a pee. Where I wake up for a pee. Where I wake up for a pee, like I'm an old man. Where I wake up for a pee, a little pee. It's consistent. It's always around 3 or 4 o'clock. There it is again. So I was told that you wouldn't need to wake up for a pee. But I've been using these testers for the past 2 weeks, waking up for a pee. There's always that middle peak where I wake up for a pee. The melatonin. Did I take melatonin? I think I had some melatonin gummies. The problem with melatonin gummies is that your body will digest them. The body will digest them. Let me just get rid of this person here. Put user in timeout. Yeah, why not? Bye. Don't get it. Melatonin is absorbed by the body within like 15 minutes. If you've got the spray or the drops, or you eat the gummies, that'll get absorbed within 15 minutes. So it'll knock you out or help you go to sleep, but it doesn't keep you asleep. That's what I've learned about melatonin. You just can't. You've got to build up your own supply of melatonin. If you add more to your body, yes, like I said, you'll go to sleep, but you won't stay asleep. So I don't advocate for melatonin in that case. And I feel like some people are using that as a crutch against just going to bed early, just going to bed at a reasonable time. And I don't believe you can have your cake and eat it at the same time. As in, I'm going to go to bed late because I'm taking melatonin. Yes, you might go to sleep, but you might not get the benefits of the full night's rest because you're trying to have, like I say, you're trying to have your cake and eat it. Paula, is each one for a specific purpose? How long does it? Supposed to have an immediate effect. This one is designed for sleep because they've removed certain things for it. They did talk about what's called broad spectrum, and the other one is, this one's broad spectrum and vegan. There's broad spectrum and there's isolate spectrum. I have to research this. This is why we're just talking about it informally now, and we're not just actually doing it. But this is the heads up, because I've already written half the script for the first part, which then will launch me into the CBD part. And then the last part will be, like I say, progesterone. And progesterone is a hormone that I'm interested in buying. And my theory is that after spending $400 on all of these CBD oils, I wonder if the progesterone will work more than any of them. That's my worry, and that's what I feel will happen. So we'll have to see. But I've told you now in September. So if these videos come out in October, November, December, doing one a month is very reasonable. By the end of this year, you could say, oh, you said that in September. But again, all our bodies are different. Paula, if I give you this might knock you out. But at the moment, I'm not feeling the effects of this. And as a side project, I want to do podcasts with all 4 of these CBD suppliers for the Hello from Hong Kong podcast. So it'd be a YouTube series talking about part 2 specifically about all the CBD, and then we'll go to talk about CBD. Okay, for 4 episodes, if they all say yes, of course. We focus on the company and we learn about CBD. And again, I have to generalize it because most people listening are going to be from the United States, right? My audience isn't Hong Kong based, as far as I can tell. Okay, I answered that question. So nobody since the Japanese guy, assuming he's actually Japanese, has actually commented. Okay, so that's those videos that are coming to the channel. That's quite a lot to talk about there. The other thing I wanted to talk about, the last thing. No, sorry. The first thing I wanted to talk about was Joe Rogan. I guess it's going to be last. But I applied for my PR, my permanent residency in Hong Kong. And while I applied for it, I realized I could have applied for it last month. So I've wasted a month again. This is perfect because when I first came here, I thought I would just be given an identity card after getting my working visa, and I was like pacing the halls of my very large, cavernous apartment bedroom, thinking, where is my fucking ID card? Turns out you've got to apply for that as well, separately from your working visa, which is a bit of a bone. And I wasted a month. Didn't have one, so I couldn't get a mobile phone contract or pay for other things without a large cash deposit to prove that I'm staying in Hong Kong. So that's applied for, and then we're going to. I have to apply for some supplementary material at the same time when they call for me. So hopefully, before the end of the year and before my visa runs out in January, I'll have permanent residency, and then I can work wherever I want. I could work in 7-Eleven. Okay, the sky is the limit. But as usual, when you apply for things, there's always the way that you think it should be done, and then there's the government way. Oh my God, Jonathan's finally got a rail against big government. The government website is kind of simple enough to navigate, but they don't tell you certain things up front, and I had to ring technical support. And so the PDF that they give you, let's say you download the PDF and you're typing it in. If you've got a Mac, I don't know how it works on Windows, but you can just type in the information in the fields. The PDF knows it's a PDF and it opens it up. So you type it all in, and I have a digital signature, so I can annotate it. But when you go to select it on the Mac and you want to annotate it, it says, sorry, this is password protected. And I'm like, oh, okay. Where's the fucking password? So I type 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I type Hong Kong Gov. I type password. I type the most simplest things in case some admin, some schlepping half-arsed admin hit the wrong settings and he's created a PDF that no one has bothered to rectify. Turns out, no, it is password protected deliberately. And what you have to do is you have to export it as JPEGs. And I'm like, okay. Then you bring it back in to the same app, and then you can sign it with the PDF reader. Okay. And no, not yet, Brad. I haven't got my social credit score. That feature, that new feature, just like a Twitter feature, isn't coming to Hong Kong just yet. It's still being demoed in the motherland. Where was I? So you have a JPEG, then you sign the JPEG, but then you've got to set it. You've got to save it at maximum resolution. Otherwise, it's all pixelated bullshit. You think, oh, okay. And you need this form, which is very catchy. You need this form called the ROP 145. And it's like, okay, I can remember that, an ROP 145. And when you download that PDF, it says you also need the ROP 146. Administration, eh? They justify themselves. So I've downloaded these 2 files. Then you send it up into the system. And then they want to know who you are, which is legit. And then they say, right, now you attach those files. Okay, so I'm attaching the ROP 145. Now it's four JPEGs now. It's 4 pages long. It's not one PDF file. It's 4 JPEGs. Put it in, and then it's like, there's no more room. You're only allowed to attach 4 files. I'm like, oh, but what about my ROP 146? So I ring up technical support and I explained to them, listen, I've got this problem because I've got unnecessary amount of files. I've got this PDF that I've had to break into 4 JPEGs, and you're only allowing me to upload 4 files, and they're not allowed to be in PDF form anyway. So you've got to break into JPEGs. But there's a password on this fucking PDF. So can I have the password anyway? They're like, you don't need the password. Save it as JPEGs. I'm like, right, okay, but I'm only allowed 4 of them because the ROP 145 is taking up all the space. And I said, oh no, you don't have to worry about that. Just send in the 145. Later, you'll need the 146. Why doesn't the website say that? Why does it say you need both forms? So later, they might contact me and say, where's your 146? And then I said, but how will they want that information? Are they going to ask me for my email? Do I have to fax it to them? Do I have to run to the government offices? And I think they said they will ask you to email it to them. Okay. I won't think about it. I'll just leave it. See what happens. But there you go. There's some insight into applying for the PR residency. Sorry, the permanent residency card. There you go. So then you become a bona fide citizen of Hong Kong in terms of getting healthcare, any juicy bonuses because of the COVID, which I've been denied because I'm not PR. Okay, they're offering cash prizes, and I've not been eligible for any of it. Right, that was the PR story. So this week, our Lord and Savior for bald men around the world, Joe Rogan, has got COVID, and I find this fascinating. And there's a narrative being spun around it. Does that residence ever expire? As long as you. If I stay in Hong Kong, then yes, it doesn't expire, and I get to use that to leave Hong Kong to enter China. I think it's more effortless for me to come back to and from China, if I wanted to go to China, of course, or Macau. But if I leave Hong Kong, it's still applicable to me. I'm still a permanent resident as long as I come back within 3 years just to activate it. So that means going through the turnstiles when you cross the border. That's why Penguin 6 had to come back to Hong Kong last month or in July, I can't remember, because he had to activate the PR card for himself and then his 2 sons. Obviously, his wife is a resident, so she doesn't have to deal with that, so she can stay where she was. And that's why it was just the 3 of them. So as long as you keep sort of topping it up, you get it for life, okay? Unless they want to renew the card with new security features, and then you've got to resubmit it, okay? Yeah, like P6 did. So Joe Rogan has got the Rona. And before the Spotify move, actually during the Spotify move, I could still access the podcast without going to Spotify. There was a link you could use, and now they've closed it up. So I don't listen to Spotify anymore. His Spotify podcast. But I do remember him talking about and saying things that are very explicit that I'm going to repeat. But he was saying, if you keep fit, you get outdoors, get some vitamin D, okay? You look after yourself, have a good diet. Anybody should be able to defend themselves against the virus. And he's not wrong in a sense that he's advocating for people to get healthier. But there are people who are shit talking. I still like him. There's some nuance to this, Paula. Let's not treat this as black and white. Because what he is doing is giving out decent advice. If you are healthy, then you should be able to fight off an infection. But it's no replacement for a vaccine. I will put that little disclaimer in there. Jonathan's pro-vaccine, unsubbed. I've got the vaccine. I'm fine. I didn't turn gay. I don't have erratic periods like women. So, yeah, it's okay for me. But I do have friends who have erratic periods now, and they are bleeding on and off. Women, by the way, biological females, by the way. Not the trans women, but the ones with the uteruses or the uteri who are bleeding. Okay? Don't get me started. So, but that's their only effect. Somehow their reproductive system is a little bit messed up. And Yes, Paula, that's what I'm saying. So Joe Rogan is dispensing this advice, and he is right. The government, because he is noticing that the government doesn't say this, and other scientists have said or wondered why governments aren't telling their people, make sure you supplement with vitamin D, make sure you do exercise, make sure you go outside because sunlight kills the virus. They're not saying these things. So he is right in this sense. But for all his talk of doing that and getting tested each week when he goes out, I mean, I don't. Why is he getting tested? Why does he care? Because he knows he's going to affect other people. But for all that talk, when he then gets it and he announces it on Instagram, he then says, he said, I threw the kitchen sink at it. I took this, I took this, I took this, I took this, and I took this. He took these 5 things, one of them, ivermectin. Guess who makes ivermectin, by the way, for all the conspiracy theorists out there? If you think Merck is stiffing you and putting microchips and the gayness in the vaccine, Merck also make ivermectin. I know, Paula, but Joe Rogan is also insanely fucking rich, so he can get access to these 5 things that I can't pronounce, bar ivermectin. So for a guy who believes in cryotherapy, he does cryotherapy. He wants his heat shock proteins from doing the sauna, on top of the other things that I mentioned, the vitamin D, healthy lifestyle, healthy eating, go outside. He does the hot cold sauna or the hot cold shock treatments. Those are 6 things. That's 6 in Chinese. He does those 6 things, and yet he's got the virus, and then he takes these 5 things instead of taking the vaccine. So what's that about? Why? I don't get why you're worried. You've just spent months telling us how great the immune system should potentially be so that you could fight it off, and then you take these things. Now, any knucklehead will say, well, Joe Rogan took it, so I'll take it. But those knuckleheads aren't multimillionaires. So how can they get access to all of this? Okay, they might get ivermectin. They'll get that one. But that's it. And there's a belief that, he took the horse paste, by the way. But they might take that. But then you've got to use ivermectin at a certain stage of the infection. You can't, it helps with preventing it in certain ways. So I'm not denying it doesn't work. But it's not a replacement for a vaccine. Now, he might say, I don't need vaccinated now because I've got the antibodies. Okay, fine. But you shouldn't jump on social media and say, I'm fine. After 2 days of feeling like crap and saying, I'm fine. I've got it off. And he doesn't have long COVID, while explaining for months on end what you should do with your body. And then he rushes out and buys these 5 things to try and deal with it. And then says, I'm fine. But then he cancels his shows. There's something weird there. And when we get into, you need zinc, magnesium, vitamin D. But when you get into yes, Paula, I'm trying to get to your point about, I do like him, but I like him because he's made certain people more accessible to me. Some very good, clever, and influential people. They influence me anyway, that I appreciate. And, when you take him at face value for some of his fuck around podcasts, it's harmless, personally. And I think more people feel strongly about him when it comes to allowing people on the right to have a voice. And people don't like that because he's giving them a voice and he shouldn't be legitimizing them. But as far as I understand, freedom of speech is free. And so you should be allowed to say whatever you want. And it's up for us to decide, ourselves decide whether that person is valuable or not. You can't try and force him to cut contact off from other people. If he wants to talk about those, talk to those people. That's not fair. That's a form of censorship. But it's not censorship. You're basically trying to put pressure on that person to shut the fuck up and not talk to these other people. When really, just as much as COVID, sunlight is the solution. If you expose people's stupid ideas, then they ridicule themselves because they're so confident in themselves because they've been given a platform. Now, I get that a lot of people don't understand that, and we'll just advocate for that anyway. And I get that other people are just like, oh, he's speaking sense. But then that's a failure. This is a systematic failure of an education system. And you can't short circuit that, again, like with melatonin supplementation. You can't short circuit that by saying they need to shut up. So you, Joe Rogan, need to shut them up or ignore them. You can't. That's not how it works to have a healthy, vibrant, discussion. You've got to fix the education system. You've got to fix things at the political level, or a government level, not political level, at a government level, to give everybody critical thinking skills. Because you're still not giving critical thinking skills to people if you're denying them access to information, whatever that information very well may be. That's not how it works. I've got to know, for example, if you say to me, you're not allowed to buy CBD oil, how do I know this isn't going to work for me? I've got to spend my money. And potentially, as I've said, I've already preempted it. I could potentially be wasting $400 on this. That's my choice. And I've got to learn that. And I walked into this knowing that. I'm not believing, oh, this will cure my sleep problem. That's why I'm doing a YouTube video. Because if it works, you gain insight from it. If it doesn't, then you will formulate your own opinions to when it comes to CBD oils. You might say, well, it's bullshit. Jonathan tried it and it's bullshit. But you might also try one that works for you. So you can't just look at these things in black and white terms. You've got to approach it with nuance, and just blocking him for giving people a voice, or trying to block him for giving people a voice, isn't a nuanced or clever way to go about dealing with our differences of opinions with one another. We've got to be able to have a dialogue with one another. Let's look at these comments. But that is his business model, to be controversial, and it works. If you believe that he's trying to be controversial, I mean, we can interpret him as being controversial, but when he says, I want to hear what they're saying, and if they are saying stupid shit, then you get to hear it. Then okay, let's not be naive. He is profiting from that, from the drama, from escalating from that. But at the same time, you now know, for example, Candace Owens, who this week has revealed herself to be a moron. I've known she was a moron since she went on the Joe Rogan show. It just reinforces the idea that, well, I know who that person is because I saw her on that show, not just from her tweets, but from a 3-hour sit down. So I actually believe a lot in what Joe says when he says you can discover if someone's a moron if you sit down with them for 3 hours. You can't when it's a political debate and you've got 2 minutes to reply. I mean, imagine if a political debate was going on for 3 hours and you had a sit down conversation about policies. How much more nuanced of a take would you have? Would there be as much arguing? Could you get into the nitty-gritties of whatever policy is being enacted? I would say yes, but you wouldn't tell them to shut up. Don't listen to him. You got to listen to this guy. You shouldn't do that at a political level. So why do it at a different level where, okay, you hate them, don't listen to them. You have every right to not listen, but you shouldn't be able to force other people to not listen. That's basically my take. Excuse me, my throat is getting dry. Agree? Disagree? Now, this week, Candace Owens has revealed herself to be a complete moron. But what is endearing to her tweets is that if you go and look at the threads that she creates, it's just full of people who don't believe her. And they just despise her. But it's also interesting to see the rabbit hole where Candace Owens is taking herself to say one thing, then she gets the answer, and then she spins it into something else. And it's like, but that's the backfire effect, and you're diluting yourself for all of us to see. I get it. Some people don't see it. But again, you can't block Candace from those people. You've got to deal with it, and you've got to change Candace in that particular instance. If you don't know what's happened, basically Candace Owens has been saying for many months that the COVID, she has been a moron for some time. She has, and she's done it again this week. She's been saying the COVID is a hoax, and she's traveled to 6 countries during the pandemic and 26 states. She's counting. And she slept with her husband who has had COVID, which she says is a hoax. And this week she applied for a test, and the testing facility said, we don't want to give you a test. Basically, we know who you are. You've done us a disservice by spouting BS. They didn't go into specifics. And if you want to get a test, you have to go here. And they've made it their choice to not give her a test. So she's put it out and said, oh, you're being racist and you've politicized this. It's like, no, they know who you are based on what you've said, not because of your politics, but the things you've said that have damaged and hurt them. So now she's trying to she's going to sue this facility because they do have some government funding. But there were some people saying, hilarious by the way, because this is Americans talking about it. But some of her retweet allies were like, and this is why you can't have government healthcare. It's like, hang on, but it's a private testing facility with some federal funding. But in the UK, you can't do that. You can't deny people service. So if it was government healthcare, you wouldn't have that argument. But because it's private, I don't know how it breaks down, but they have private donations and government donations. So supposedly she's got a case against discrimination. But I do remember a certain thing about a bakery not wanting to make a gay cake. And they were saying that's fine. It should be their right as a private business. And the same thing is supposedly going on here. Supposedly, I say supposedly because she says that they are government funded. She says. So I'm paying close attention to her tweets to see what happens. But in the tweets, generally, there's just vitriol against her because she's the one that said COVID is a hoax, while also saying, well, I need to get tested. And I slept with my husband who has COVID or had COVID. I don't get it. Yes, they can make their own rules, but I'm sure, as you know, Paula, that doesn't matter in America. If you try to walk into a private business without a mask, people will say you're impinging on my rights, and they forget about the business rule, which is shocking to see, really. I don't live in your country, and yet I know the fucking rules. The golden age of stupidity. It's entertaining on this side of the planet. I saw a guy get upset. He was raging into the void, the internet. He was raging into his phone in his car, and he's a student, and he's upset that he has to wear a mask. And he says, but I'm healthy. I shouldn't need to wear a mask, and I shouldn't need to get tested because I'm healthy. And he's getting very upset. I just don't understand it, because there's nobody in Hong Kong, there's nobody in Asia raging in their cars with this notion that wearing a mask means you're a pussy. You just wear the goddamn mask. I've got like 3 of them. But you are a pussy. Listen, that is not the slam dunk you think it is. My point is that we've had, 12,000 cases, 200 dead, 212 dead to be exact. We never went into a lockdown. And we just wear masks. And also, most people here, I think there's like 30% of the population are vaccinated. So you can make an argument that the vaccine doesn't really matter in a certain sense. But Hong Kong people are very diligent with wearing masks, socially distancing themselves, using alcohol rubs, using spoons to touch the elevator buttons, and businesses will desanitize handrails, escalator rails, elevator buttons. So all these other things contribute to minimizing the exposure. And plus, we've got a great screening process if you try and enter Hong Kong. So great that I got a job because of that screening process. That doesn't happen in the United States. The level of screening that goes on here in your side of the country. I have a neighbor who has lawn signs saying, don't mask our children and don't force them to take any chemical. Let them be free. But every single child here is masked. I'm preaching to the choir because you guys know. We have masks. Children don't have any problem with it. I've seen babies less than a year old wear a mask, or they're behind a plastic screen. None of them get upset. They just adapt to it. I remember, I don't remember as in like first-hand knowledge, but I remember when I was at university, or it could have been at school, that there was this great fear of trains. And that if you build train lines, this is in the UK, by the way, if you build a train line, you're going to scare the cows and they won't be able to make milk. They're going to die of fright, knowing that this locomotive is hurtling past them. That was the fear. And they also believed that a woman couldn't ride a horse because something about her womanly body would not be able to resist the rigor of horse riding. We say some dumb shit. Yeah, everyone wears masks. So we just take to it. The children here are just taking to it. And they're toddlers. Just put the mask on and that's it. They don't cry. They don't know any better. Just as much as, We dress cats and dogs, and they don't get upset, but they've got a thick body of fur already. So why do you need to dress them up in jumpers? But that's what they do. They do it in Hong Kong. It's not cold here. 0 degrees is not cold. With no wind chill, it's not cold here. And yet they dress their dogs in jumpers. Dogs don't complain. But I've already got a head of fur. Okay. And they put shoes on. They don't complain. And babies don't complain. I shouldn't be making comparisons to those animals because they don't know any better. And they can't argue really because they're domesticated. But babies, they're fine. And don't forget, these are babies that if you throw them in a puddle of water, if you throw them in a deep enough pool of water, their body already knows what to do. I don't know if you know this, but there's a mechanism inside children where if they're in a lake, their body shuts down and their heart only pumps blood to the brain, which is an amazing survival instinct that we lose. I think whales have it as well. But human babies have that instinct where they shut down. Adults don't. So if anything, in my mind, babies are very adaptable. And I've never seen any baby cry specifically because they're wearing a mask. They just wear it. They're just compliant, right? Everyone in Hong Kong is wearing a mask, basically. Although it is a bit weird. You see 1 or 2 people outside not wearing a mask. But again, sunlight kills the virus. So we're fine in that sense. Or they're fine. They're not going to give it to me, I don't think. If you're running, they don't wear a mask so much. Although their lung capacity is greatly increased. So if they did have it, they can potentially spread it onto other people, potentially. But there's so few cases here. I mean, how many cases were there? Let me just check. We want that website that's called Wars, Vote for HK. We want English. And then we have, at the moment, we have 72 in the hospital. We have a case on the 31st. The last case was on the 31st, and there were 2 on that day, the 31st of August. And then there was 3 on the 30th, and then there were 4, 5, 6, 7, 7 on the 29th. But everything I've just said, these are all imported cases. So if I keep going backwards through time with my time machine function, I will try and find the last native case. Scrolling, still scrolling, scrolling. Okay, local case, the 17th of August, 1 person. That's it. Keep scrolling. The 5th of August, asymptomatic, a male. Keep scrolling. I'm going to get to 3 cases. Now, don't forget, all of these that are imported, they have to go to, I think it's called Pennywise. Kevin will know the name, but it's Penny something. It's a COVID center where you can languish there up by the airport. And some people can go to specific hotels, but those hotels are booked till November. I'm still scrolling while I'm talking to you. I could do 2 things at the same time. Come on. God, I didn't even know this. I'm just scrolling through imported. It does 3 at a time, so that's why it's taking a bit of time to get there. Oh, here we go. Close contact of a local case, the 7th of the 6th. So that was July. That's wild. 3 local cases since July, the 7th of July. Everything else has been imported. So we're just catching up at the border. So effectively, the virus, neither here or there. But guess what? Everyone's still wearing masks. Is it the masks or the vaccines? As I said earlier, 30% of the people, 30% of the population have been vaccinated. But they are saying, certain businesses are now saying that we would like you to be vaccinated. I'm vaccinated. And everybody else is just wearing masks. There is also a deep distrust here, but that's because they distrust the government in a different way. It's because of the situation here. That's why they're distrusting of it. It's not because, it's not because Trump invented the virus and then it's some liberal propaganda or some liberal way, it's some way to get back at the libs by not taking the vaccine that Trump created. Did I say he created the virus? I meant vaccine, because I do believe that people say that Trump invented it. Okay. Pennywise, there we go. It's for serious cases. Right, Pennywise. I'm thinking of Pennywise the clown. That's why it's confusing me. I'm thinking, is it Pennywise? Pennywise? Clearly no one in Hong Kong has seen it. They all float. No one's seen it, so they've called it Pennywise, unironically. But there we are. Patrick Swafford says, hi there. Last time I popped in, you were in a city in China pre-COVID. How do you feel then versus now? I am still in a city in China, Hong Kong, China. Hong Kong City. Post-COVID. We've just got 3 cases since July. That's it. Feel great here. No problems. Okay, I'm coming up to the hour, so I should end this. Unless you've got any other specific questions. That's all I want to talk about, really. The CBD oils, or the heads up on the videos I'm going to make. 3 videos. Part 3, progesterone. Part 2, CBD oils. Part 1 is everything that I currently do to help me sleep. Talked about the Joe Rogan thing. Talked about Candice Owens, her ridiculousness. And we just talked about the COVID and permanent. We talked about permanent residency as well. Any special masks used? No, not really. In fact, I bought a new one yesterday, just to go zero waste. It's just a cloth, so it's a reusable one. But I have a filter. I have a filter somewhere that I can insert into here and wear it. Other than that, no. I know someone who just wears a yes, industrial. We talked about that. I'm just summarizing for those coming in late. I have a friend who, it looks like she's wearing lingerie. She's wearing a mask, but it looks like lingerie. That's how thin it is. And she says, I'm just not concerned about it now. And she is vaccinated. Okay. But it looks like she's wearing lingerie, unironically, just like some Americans were over their head because they needed to wear a mask. Okay. She's doing it deliberately for different reasons because she doesn't want constantly the carbon dioxide smudging her face. But there we are. Okay. Oh, I'll tell you something though. What was nice was that one of the CBD companies gave me some hemp soap, so you can absorb it via the skin. Yeah. Who'd have thought you can get it in soap? You can get it in gummies. Gummies are pointless, by the way, for a lot of people. They're not as effective as taking it with a tincture. Okay, just FYI. But yeah, that just looks like industrial. Crow says. Don't know. Not all CBD oils are the same, and you've got to investigate it. My idea, industrial, is to make this video that's coming up to then highlight what you've just said. Okay, time for a hot soaking bath. I don't have a bath in Hong Kong. That's not how it works here. Okay, other than that, I'm still making podcasts, and I should promote Zora's podcast. If you're interested in health, definitely check out Zora's podcast, Hack My Age, because I edit her podcast, and it's a wealth of information. That's why I'm going to do a video about progesterone as well. I tried so many brands, and not many actually work. I only found one. Yeah, and plus you got to look at the milligrams. Where were you at the beginning of this episode? This is 2,000 milligrams. This one is 3,000 milligrams. This one is 1,500 milligrams. So we'll find out. Find out if it works shortly, okay? Because my testers have nearly run out. So that's it. I guess thanks for your time, okay? And I'll see you soon. My work schedule has improved greatly, so I should be able to do more videos for the month of September. I'm definitely doing another live chat because I didn't do one last month, and we'll talk more about something else, whatever that may be. Great seeing you, best. Okay, no worries, Steve. I know who you are now. Okay, I do this mostly because of the Periscopers. Only the Periscopers turn up. There's no new people from YouTube who turn up and watch. I should do it for you, okay? Because I know this is what you're accustomed to. And you can clearly see I've invested in Twitter Live. Okay. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.